Thank you.
I'm trying to get rid of the reason.
There's Jerry.
Absolutely. You could have done
Not these kind of iguana, special.
No, they're big enough to eat.
I know, that's what I mean, they're special.
I'm trying to remember. Yes.
Say something to the speaker on you.
Welcome. Let's get a little closer. Okay.
Maybe you can stand up.
I don't know why that's on her.
I can get on speaker here, maybe?
Tony, Tony, do you have people in the room as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wondered where all the chatter was coming from. That's great. Okay, thank you.
All right, Jerry, well, good to see you.
You too.
Keep taking those pictures up in Canada for us. Okay. Maybe they'll change it to speaker view.
Yeah, it is on speaker view. That's why it jumped. That's why we just spoke.
Taking over.
But this camera has to take over, so you have to talk for a while, I think, before.
Let's see. All right, well. I guess we can get started then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get this one. There you go.
Okay, well, welcome to the summer shutterbugs. Okay, I see myself there.
Yeah.
It's the first time we have it in person in 4 years, so it's it's good to see everybody. I remember 4 years ago, Susan was becoming president and she asked for volunteers for the summer shutterbugs, and I said, well, I'll volunteer to help, and she put me in charge of it, so watch when you volunteer. But I guess this is my first meeting as president. I just want to say thank you for everybody that worked so hard in the past. When I started with the group, I guess Wayne was president, and then Bob, then Susan, then Bob again. But they all work very hard, and we need to give Bob a little break. Bob's staying on as our tech guy, so he's still going to be quite involved with everything, and we appreciate all his help. We appreciate all the board members. They help guide us through. again, we want to make decisions that benefit the, the most members. So that's why we have a board that, so not one person is making decisions. So, so today we're going to start off our program with the landscape, and we're going to go over kind of a little presentation I put together. I've been to, I guess when I got back into digital in 2001, there was so much to learn, especially, after raising kids and working on a career, that I kind of got away from photography for most of my life. I was big in my teen years. So I went on workshops and learned from quite a few, different photographers. Been out to California on workshops, Arizona, Pennsylvania, New York. So it was interesting. I went to a lot of seminars, and the one thing you're going to find is everybody kind of tells you something different. So when Vic and I were at the FWC meeting a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how the different presenters were saying, you're supposed to use F16, you're supposed to use F11, you're supposed to, not use an auto ISO. They all had their own ideas, and you listen to all these different people and you come up with different things. And some of them are valid, some not. Some are carryovers from the old film days or the early days of digital. I mean, in the early days of digital, ISO 100 was good, and you go too far up and it was, staticky. So, now we can, go quite high, and especially with some of the new software we have to get rid of noise, it really makes a big difference. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how things work. I like to keep this open for discussion too. So if you find that there's something that you do that works, we can discuss that. Again, we don't want to just keep this one idea, but I started modeling this program after I was on advisory board for Scott Kelby before the pandemic. And he was doing a program, and he was doing one of those one-day workshops, and half the day was landscape. So I went over that, and then, Scott, again, he's into, you got to do it his way. His thing, landscape, it's F11, ISO 100, or, depending on your camera, it'd be 50. Shutter aperture priority, and, that's it. And everything on a tripod. So, again, you got to be open to different ideas. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's go on. So landscape photography has different definitions to different people. I was on one workshop, and he says he doesn't shoot anything that moves. Well, what about waterfalls and so on? But I remember being on that workshop out in Yosemite, and seeing some wildlife, and I was taking some pictures, and then, he said, I don't shoot those things. I find it interesting too. You have to be open to everything. So, so our agenda will again, I started with the introduction, right? We're gonna, normally you don't start with composition, but I moved it up to, first point, so we can, as we kind of look at the pictures that I took through the years, we can, talk about what the composition elements are in it. Going to talk about researching location, lenses, so on. But we'll go over it. We'll probably end today at the polarizing filter. And I always hated filters, but I got to tell you, I got some new stuff, and it works great. And then we'll do editing next week, and smartphone photography. It's just fantastic now. When I was up in New York 2 weeks ago, usually I go to the park with the grandkids, and I bring my big camera, and I went around with. So I was kind of tired that day. I just used my cell phone, and I got some excellent shots. It's like, wow, So I got to rethink some of the things that I do. But anyway, so we'll go into the agenda, and a lot of my answers will be it depends. And I got that from Rick Salmon. He always says that it depends. You can't give a one specific answer to they'll be every situation. It's kind of like using the same aperture for every situation. It's going to depend. The other thing is, I remember when I was young watching Dobie Gillis, and I always started out with him in the park with the thinker. So I took this in San Diego Zoo. His hand was up. I had to use puppet Photoshop to bend it to make him look like a thinker. But you know, but you know, a lot of the photographers, they say this is the way you do it. You know, go on. And I remember that song, "This is the Way I Always Heard It Should Be" with Coley Simon, and you know, you have to be creative, you have to be adjusted to change. In business, I used to always hear, you know, whenever I was consulting somewhere or taking over a new department, I would try to figure out why they were doing certain things. And I keep asking, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then they would always come up with, you know, well, we always done it that way, instead of thinking. So I'm saying, you know, always think about what you're doing. And I like this quote: "Photography has no rules. It's not a sport. It's the results which counts, no matter how it's achieved." So, you know, again, we try to use a tripod for the best, you know, quality pictures, but sometimes you're not going to have a tripod with you. So you got to be different. Okay, a little bit about composition. The big thing for me is slow down. Usually I get somewhere, I'm so happy about seeing it, and you know, go fast, and that's always been my life, is everything fast. So you got to slow down, plan. For example, when I took this picture, this is in the Shenandoah Valley. We were in the car. You know, I liked it, looked very peaceful. I got out of the car, went in front of the car, took a picture, and drove away. What I should have did was, maybe if I went on the other side of the street and took a picture, it might have given me more of a leading line in. But I should explore the spot more. So slow down, you know, plan it out. What do you like about the scene? You know, what's your subject? Is there a subject? Sometimes we go and we see a beautiful scene and it doesn't photograph well. You know, you go home, you look at it on a computer and say, yeah, it was nice when I was there, but it just doesn't photograph well. And probably there's no subject. Just, you know, you're probably including too much because you get all excited when you're taking a picture. So what's in it is almost important as what you leave out. So think about, you know, what the subject is, what your perspective is. Do you want to shoot high, shoot low? You know, which way will look better? If you've got a plain sky with no clouds in it, you might want to not include the sky. You want to, you know, angle it down a little bit more because there's nothing there. Especially if you have like a cloud overcast sky and it's just white. Unless you use sky replacement in Photoshop, it's not gonna look good. So, you know, then you want to look at leading lines. You know, this one has, you know, the fence, you know, the road, grass. It's a little darker at the top because there is some shade, but I actually did darken it when I made this picture. So it's, you know, brighter here in the middle. So you can bring your focus to the farm. And then we'll talk about rule of thirds. And remember, the eye is drawn to bright areas, colors, contrast, you know, faces. There's really no faces in landscape. That's what we're normally, you know, drawn to. So this is just a picture. Actually, I took this from a train. It was a rainy day and the sun just came out a little bit, but you can see the clouds. So again, you don't want too much of the sky because it's just dreary, but I did want that feeling. And you can see there's a lot of leading lines pointing towards this bridge here. And then this is the rule of thirds. I had the crop overlay over it. So if we put the bridge, and I made it a little bit higher because I don't want to, of course, you know, block the bridge in this demo. But you want the bridge at one of the points. So when you break it up into thirds like this, you want to have something at one of the points. You don't want to have it dead center. You know, they like the saying is dead center is deadly. If you have it dead center, it's kind of, you know, boring. So we have the subject off to the right a little, and it's kind of corresponding to one of the rule of thirds. Same thing if you look at, you know, normally if you have a nice sky, your horizon line would be, you know, at this point too, at the third. So when you're editing in software, you can go, it's like a second chance at composition. Because you can go around and say, okay, this is what my subject is. So I want to highlight that. So let's keep this on one of the thirds. We want to cut out some of the sky. And when we talk about editing, we'll go, this picture didn't look as it was kind of flat. And I had to brighten up certain spots of the picture, give it some, kind of get the feeling when I saw it. So, when I cropped it, this is just cropped, version. So we got rid of some of the sky. We might have cropped a little bit more to get rid of some of, the trees here too, but I think that was a pleasing crop. Again, I took it from a train, so, but I think it was a good picture that demonstrates the leading lines in a subject. Okay, when you're taking the trip, obviously we all go, with the internet, we research our locations, and there's different things to use. I remember I was at a seminar in Houston, Texas once, and I had nothing in the morning. So I looked at Google Maps and I found this park within walking distance of downtown. And it was just a beautiful park that I wouldn't have known about it, but it wasn't for Google Maps. So kind of look around, see what's around. I'll talk about Google Earth in a minute. 500px is like a photo site where you can look at other pictures. So you can go onto that site and you can, search for, say, Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. It'll come up with different pictures. You can see how other photographers are taking it. Maybe what you want to look at when you go there. I like that angle. I like the way what he did with that. I think I'll do it this way though. TripAdvisor I use a lot, and just internet searches. And photo fills. We'll talk about that quickly too. So Google Maps, there's Google Maps and there's Google Earth. So when you go into Google Earth, it gives you kind of this whole area, and then you can go in and in this case, I'm going to go into the Mayaka Park, look at the bridge here. So if I go and click on this icon here of the person and drag it over to the bridge, then I'm going to get a picture of what it looks like at the bridge. So this way, if you're going somewhere new and you want to see what's around, and this is a 3D picture, you can, I didn't do the whole thing here, but you can actually turn around, look at the other side, get a whole view. But this is on Google Earth. And again, it's earth.google.com. And it's free, so. But again, you're just going to click on the person, drag it over to where you want to see. If you want to go see over here, and it'll show you a view of a picture from there. So that's just one way to research a location. And just need a little water here. The next picture, well, talk about photo pills. Now, I got this program originally when I was with Scott Kelby. He recommended it. And at that time it was $10. I'm not sure what it costs now. And they make it both for the iPhone and the Android. It has so much to it. They call it pills because it's like it helps you, gets you well, it finds a solution. In this case, you can basically just see when the sun sets, when golden hour, blue hour, we'll talk about that, the moon. It also has the augmented reality where you can hold it up and see, where the sun will be at different times. But these are some of the pills. And you can see it has depth of field table, hyperfocal table. It's got like so many things in it that it's so much to learn, but it helps you plan. And I'll show you. This is for the Boca Grande Lighthouse. And I put the pin down just on a sand over there. And I put it onto sun. So it's only showing the sun. So where it's yellow, it shows me the direction that the sun's going to rise at that point. And when it's the thick orange, it tells me where it's going to set, what direction. So I can, and then I have it set for 7:17 tonight. it's gonna show me where this smaller orange line is. It's showing me where it's gonna line up. So it's gonna line up right to the lighthouse at 717, and it's gonna be an elevation of 9.58 degrees. So there's another way that you can go in and see exactly where we see on the lighthouse, but that's a little more complicated. But this is in a planner, and it really works out good. So I know if I go down there tonight around 7, and I can walk around a little too to see at different times. But I know it's 7:17, but at that point, it's going to be right over the lighthouse, so I can get a nice sunset picture. You can do that with the moon. If you want to see a full moon behind the lighthouse, a little bit harder because you have to get it, more towards morning. But we'll go over this a little bit more at the next meeting because I don't want to take too much, time. Just today's more of a basic. But I would think it's like $10 or whatever it is well spent to get photo pills. This way, like I say, you can really plan out your shoots. Whether you want to go at a certain time to see where's the sun going to rise, where's the sun going to set, and you can choose different spots. And it uses Google Maps. This is from Google, Google Maps, the satellite view. But it's so much to this program that it's kind of overwhelming. So you got to kind of break it down into, baby steps. And we'll go over some of the easier things at the next meeting on photo pills. This way, in case you decide to get it. And there's other programs out there. Like I said, I went with this. Scott Calby recommended it, so I went with that. Lenses. Now, these are not my lenses. This is the Nikon site. I don't have all. I have too many lenses, but not that many. So, lenses for landscape. We just, today I'm a landscape photographer. Tomorrow I'll be a wildlife. The next day I'll be shooting people. So we don't want to get locked into just a lens. You buy a lens just for landscape. Generally for landscape, you don't need a fast lens like a 1.8, 2.8. But if you're looking for a 70 to 200, and you're going to also be shooting some indoor sports, then the 2.8 is probably the way to go. But if you're never going to be shooting that, only landscape, then you don't need to get a 2.8 because it's heavy. Especially if you're hiking somewhere, you don't want to be carrying extra weight around. The big discussion has always been prime versus zoom. Some people swear by prime lenses and they'll only get prime lenses and they'll switch the lenses and they're going to say, well, you don't need to zoom because you can walk closer, walk further. Well, yeah, if you're on a pier, you don't want to walk too far. So the zoom helps. Going back to the film days, the zoom lenses were not as sharp. Even going back to the early digital days, they weren't as sharp. The zoom lenses that come out now, the newer ones are sharp as could be. So, consider a zoom. I bought the 85 1.8 prime lens, which is a nice lens, and it's great. Like I got some great pictures of the Orion Nebula, 1.8 at night. It's sharp as could be. I figured I was going to use it for portraits, and it has a nice bokeh. But if you're shooting in the studio with a flash, you don't really need the bokeh. You don't really need it. I compared the lens, the 1.8. Not the 1.8. I compared the 85 with a zoom going to 85. It's really hard to tell the difference. So if you're not sure about something, test it out. See if it works. If the prime may be better than the zoom for what you're doing. But I tested it out, and basically my lens that I use most of the time, this is one of the Nikon Z lenses. It's a 24 to 200. It's sharp as could be. I was at Mayaka one day and I saw a hawk, and I saw it went out to 200. I still had to crop a lot, and then he was nice enough to wait for me. So I went to the car and I got the 500. Put the 500 on. I got some shots, but the ones with the 200, I liked the way where he was at that time. So I put it into the software, cropped, sharpened it up. It looks just as good, if not better than a 500. So, you know, there's a lot you can do with software these days too. But
Is that a fixed step board?
no, this is, it starts at F4 and goes to, I think, 6.3 at the 200 range. The fixed lenses generally are bigger and heavier. When Nikon first went to Z lenses, they didn't have a lot of different lenses. I actually paid $90 over list for this because when it came out, you couldn't get it. I was taking a trip and I wanted to bring it for the trip. I'm really happy I got it. I end up using this quite a bit. I have this is a fixed F4. This is the 14 to 30, and that's fixed at F4. And this is one of the Z lenses, and it's a nice sharp lens. But we'll go over the lenses in a second on how to use them. Now, telephoto, sometimes with landscape, you want to really zoom in on something too and use a telephoto. So a lot of, you know, it used to be, you know, like a 14 to 30, then it's 24 to 70, and then, you know, 70 to 200, or, you know, these sort of trinity of lenses. But I could shoot most of my landscape with the 24 to 200. That's nice for, you know, when I go to Yellowstone in a couple of months, I'll take these two and maybe my I have a 300. Maybe bring that. So this is an example of it's my backyard. I just use an example of different lenses. So the 14 really pushes the background further away. So unless you have something in the foreground that's interesting, you don't really want, like this shot, unless you like selling grass seeds or something, you know, it's not going to be very interesting, or fertilizer, whatever. Notice how the trees at in the distance in infinity are very low. You know, well, if you go into the 115, the trees in the background are pretty high up. So when you go in wide angle like that, you end up really pushing the background. So this is at 30. This is probably more acceptable range, you know, for it. Bring in a lot. The background isn't as far away as that one. And as you went closer, and then, you know, the 115, you're really close, you know, to the banana tree, which I lost them all during the storm, and they're just coming back now. So, but you can see the difference in, you know, same spot. It was a shot on a tripod, and I just, you know, switched lenses, zoomed in. So you have to determine what you're looking for. If I had something interesting here, maybe like a little lake or a little even puddle, and I went close to the puddle and I got the background, might be nice. But again, it's really going to push your background. So if you're going to take pictures of a mountain with a wide angle, like this picture, you know, it's Mount Humphreys in Arizona. If you went with a wide angle, it's going to like push that away instead of, you know, keeping it, you know, close. Again, that one shot, I just got out of the car, pulled it over, took a shot. You know, maybe I could have worked it a little bit more. Actually, when I put it onto the PowerPoint, it lost some of the top. So. Now this is in Yosemite, two different, I zoomed in. So this is at 24, this is the tunnel view. And then I zoomed in on this little spot here, and that's at 125. So, I mean, you could crop, but, you know, if you have that zoom, you can really go in and pick out some details of things that you might want. Okay, so any questions on lenses? Anybody have any comments on what they like to use? Or okay. We'll go into gear. Now, with the tripod, you know, when I first started out in the photography, I was very confused as to what to buy. So this is usually, and then you end up buying a good tripod, and you end up you don't get a head. So this is a graphite. What's nice about the graphite, it's very light. And it doesn't conduct heat like an aluminum. I remember I had one of my early workshops, I was out in Arizona and we were walking up a mountain early in the morning and I had an aluminum tripod and I didn't have these grips on it. And it was cold. It was like my hand was frozen to it. So that's why they have on the aluminum ones, that's why they have this cushion here. So if it's, gets too hot and too cold, you're not going to feel it. So this is, now these are both Manfrotto tripods. So just because it's name brand doesn't mean it's good. This is kind of, not so great. And go over why in a minute. So you have to buy a head, and usually for landscape, a lot of people use the ball head. There's the gimbal head that we use for wildlife. It's a lot bigger and heavier. I have one of them, and but this is the ball head. And when you buy a tripod, if you buy a small one, it might have a 1/4 inch screw. This is the 3/8. So and then so just make sure they match if you buy something. So this is a Gitto. This is about 15 years old, this head. And after you put it on, you tighten it down. There's a little set screw underneath. You tighten it up because you don't want to end up, turning this and having it come off on you when you're taking pictures. So the good tripods will have, there's a little set screw. Always pack some tools with you in your bag. Because if you're out in the field, something goes wrong, if you don't have any tools, you're out of luck. Usually what I do is I just torque down all these points, make sure that they're not loose so the leg don't fall off when I'm using it. The tripod has a little level here that you can see if it's level. A lot of the cameras have it too, but you're also gonna, with ball head, it could go off level easy. Now the other thing to look for with the tripod head is what kind of mount you have. So when I originally bought this one, it came with their own proprietary quick release. All right, and then so this goes in and it, locks in, and it's really convenient, goes in and out pretty quick. The problem with this is then I bought another, I remember buying a monopod, and it was a different brand, and it came with a different one. So then when I wanted to switch from this to the one, then I had to, someone screw another one on the bottom. So this is what they call an Arca switch. I put that on Arca Swiss mount, and I put that on. I'll show you a little bit better here. And it's a little bit, it's not as quick because you got to turn it in and out. But I've standardized all my heads with the Arca Swiss. And then I always leave on the bottom of my camera, I always have an Arca Swiss mount. Because I never know when I'm going to use it. So I can, with this way, I can just put it on, tighten this down, and I'm ready to shoot. Now on the tripod head, you got the good ones will have 2 knobs. This one is friction. So you just, so you tighten it just a little so you can still move it around. And the bigger one is the lock. So when I get it to spot, I can lock it down so it doesn't move. And then you got the same thing here. So I didn't know that at first, I said, well, I do have 2, but but again, you loosen this, the big one is to lock it. Like this cheaper one, where did I put it? Oh yeah. The small one, it only has 1, and then you tighten it, then you got to tighten it more. But like I said, I had this about 15 years, and I was thinking about getting a new one, and I looked around and I said, it works fine, and then, now there's different, heads for different uses. Like if you do a lot of astrophotography, this might move a little when you line it up to a star, you might move a little. So they have these geared ones, it's a little different. I might eventually get one of them. But there's all different types of, tripod heads. There's all different ways for them to take your money. So, so Then with the tripod, if you want to go higher, you have the center column. And again, if it's cheaper tripod, this will wobble. So if it's like that one, I wouldn't go up one ahead with it. But this one's a little bit better. And this one also pulls out, and I can put it down like this. If I want to take like pictures like that, you know. This tripod itself is around. This is one of my pandemic purchases. I think it's around 500.
Think we're gonna buy one of those?
What's that?
Do you think we're gonna buy one of those now?
Look for it on sale.
Yeah.
But this is a grab, and they have cheaper ones. This is a Manfrotto. There's other companies out there. I just ordered a travel tripod with carbon fiber, and it's a lot cheaper. So it's a little over 100. But again, it's just for travel. So this is, you know, this is kind of big to carry on a plane, and you know, the price of it. I don't know if you want to put it in your suitcase. I always carry my stuff on. So this tripod is a little smaller. I also like the tripods with these locks here, like that, rather than the ones that you turn on. But this is this is a Manfrotto, but again, it's a cheap one. I actually bought it for my daughter because I rented one of mine, but I ended up letting her keep my other one. So now, if you want to go lower with a tripod, you can either adjust the legs, or on the side here, you can press the button. They both have a similar thing. You can make the legs go out. Go this way, down. So if you just need to get it low quick, you can do it that way. And then to put it back, you can push it back up and I'll click into place. Even the cheaper one does it. It just has these little attachments here. You just push this over and you can bring it down. So we'll look for something like that. With the ball head also, if I wanted to, if you want to go into, let's try it this way. If you want to go into, yes, I didn't tighten it down. That's because it's coming loose already. You can go into the portrait mode versus landscape mode. Now, also, if you're using a telephoto lens, like if you want to use this for wildlife, and I have the gimbal, but I find that I can use this for wildlife. If I put it on my 500 and it has the mount on the barrel, and I can kind of turn it, so and then I can use this kind of like a gimbal, where I can go like this for wildlife, shoot quick. Because for wildlife, you're looking, one of these lenses are heavy, so this way it takes the weight off. So I can use this rather than carry a gimbal mount with me. I can take this and take this, and again, if I'm using it with my 500, I can turn the body. So, and then you can always go to this. But again, so on the camera, this is like a cleaning thing, lens cleanup. But what I did was I put an Apple tag in there, so it keeps track of where it is at all times. So it looks like it's just a cleaning thing. I got the Apple tag on it, so, and it keeps track of my phone exactly. If I leave it somewhere, I can keep that on my phone. I like to, I don't like the neck strap, so I use this little, hand strap. I carry it like that. The other thing, I have one of these. This is the rapid strap. You can put it around your neck, and then it clips on to the bottom here, and clicks like that, or I can click it onto the side. I just don't like things around my neck. So I also have I bought a couple of these in Home Depot, just a few dollars a piece. And I can clip this onto my camera. And then I can clip it onto my belt. So I can, carry it. And that's good if you, sometimes you got to change lenses or something, yeah. If you don't have a neck strap, it's kind of hard. So I can clip it onto my belt and so on. But these are like, I think $2 or $3 in Home Depot. It's a little, clamp.
Kind of a D-ring thing, I can't see it that well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that just snaps in. And I never had a problem with it. And like I say, you can clip it onto camera and then onto your belt. So it kind of works out pretty good. For those.
I've used the shoulder strap attached to the bottom, like you said,
Yeah,
and had it let go.
you let go.
Fortunately, I hold onto the camera when I'm carrying it anyway.
That's the problem with them, because it's screwed in. See, at least with this, the shoulder, at least putting it on here, I feel a little safer.
Right.
Because this is where they put the,
So I've gone to using a vest.
the vest. I can even clip this onto a vest. But that's how, again, find out what's comfortable for you. This is how, I like it with just a hand strap like this. I can just keep, and it's comfortable for me walking. The only problem is, if you're going up like a mountain trail, you might want to clip it onto something, When I was in North Carolina a few years ago, I went to photograph this waterfall and I went on a trail. And it was only like 2 miles or something, so that's nothing, but it's up and down. So I bought a walking stick, one of those mountain sticks that opens up. Because I saw a lot of people with that, and I said that really stabilizes you when you're carrying things. So if you're gonna, go on a hike through the woods, probably good to have a stick. I had a monopod with me, but that's still not as good. The other thing, let's see, I have the backpack. You want to make whatever's easy for you. Don't carry a lot of things because it gets heavy, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to want to do it. So I see these people and they have a backpack and they have so many lenses in it, it's like, unless you're in your car and you're just going to stop and take pictures, you don't need all that. So, again, water, snacks, walking sticks, comfortable shoes. Now, filters. I hate using filters because, I got all these filters. I got the Voya filters, and then you end up, screwing them on and off. This is neutral density. And you gotta screw it on and off. It's a pain in the neck. And then if you use the, when you're doing all this, you don't want to get fingerprints on it. If you use a polarizing filter, you got to turn it. Sometimes if you don't tighten it, as you're turning it, it'll come loose on you. And it's a real pain in the neck to use filters like that. So I found this set. And what it does. So this is a polarizing filter. It's magnetic. I can put it on, take it off, put it on, and then I put the whole set of neutral density with this. So I can, and I'll show you what we do with neutral density filters. They just go on and off, and I'll tell you, I'm having fun with this now because it's something new to me, because I always hated carrying all these filters. Again, I put a hook. You can put it on your belt, or I put one of these hooks on and I just carry it. I can carry it on my tripod. Hook it onto my tripod and carry it. But this makes all the difference. I'll show you in a picture. Later on, I'll show you a picture of the polarizer. I got it from Amazon. This one is I don't know the brand. This it nano coated. This one was around $60, $70. But just a polarizer.
You can use step up, step down rings because you got different lenses.
Well, I'm lucky enough that this size fits.
Even the 15 to.
Well, no, it fits my 85, 1.8, and it fits my 70 to 300. So I got 3 lenses with this one. Now, this is a bigger one, so no, you can see the differences. But I'll probably not use a filter on that and just ship the filters on this. Because I have the filters for the 500, and it's just so annoying to use. You know, but with this, on and off.
I found though, sometimes you pump it and it falls off, so.
I haven't had that problem.
Yeah.
You know, even I've, with the cap, I guess if you take the cap off, there's less weight on it too, that less of a chance of it falling off. But this magnet, and you can still use, if you're using a filter, you can't, that cap is annoying, but the regular cap still fits on it too. But if you're putting extra weight on the front of it, that's a better chance of it falling off. But again, it goes on so easy, on and off so easy. I usually should keep the cap on, but I put it into the case. This is my Newell. And the coated lenses, and this was about $115, $120 for a set of 4. Yeah, neutral lens. And it comes with the filters, and then there's a little adapter ring that goes onto this. So it makes it stick. So you just screw that on. And I guess, Mike, like you said, you can probably get step up and step down. Yeah. But
There's a magnet in both pieces.
no, magnet's just on a filter. This is just the I guess it just gives a nice flat spot to stick onto. So but once you put that on, I'm just gonna tighten it and it's gonna stay. So, but that changed my idea of filters. I have something like that. So we'll go over filters. I think that's camera settings. Again, we were talking about camera settings before, and going back to the film days, and what we use in the film days. The first thing that I suggest you do, sometimes I'll be shooting at night, and I'll have a high ISO. I might be adjusting the what is the brightness and so on, the sensitivity. So the first thing I usually do when I go out to shoot is just check all my settings. Make sure I'm not plus or minus, on the lens settings. Make sure my ISO is a decent ISO. And because you don't want to go out there and find that you messed it up. You have to do something different. So always check to make sure your battery's charged before you go out. Many times I went out and I didn't check that. You take a few pictures and then you get that dreaded shutter lock, battery low. So probably good to keep an extra battery with you at all times, but that doesn't. Now, does everybody here shoot RAW? Yeah. Anybody shoot JPEG or? All those. Yeah. All right, so JPEG, it's nice right out of the camera. So if you're in a hurry, if you compare a JPEG with a RAW picture right out of the camera, the JPEG's gonna look better. So that's the idea of putting it into like a Lightroom or a Photoshop. Is you kind of like process the image, you add a little sharpening, and Lightroom does it automatically, it's sharpening, so on to it. So people that like wedding shooters will normally shoot JPEGs. They got the exposures down, they know what to shoot at, they'll shoot a JPEG. It's just easier, smaller files. They can share them quicker with the client. So you'll generally see it, in wedding shooters or sometimes sports shooters, especially with the raw pictures might fill up the buffer and shoot high speed. They'll fill up the buffer quicker if you use raw. But for landscape, you really want to use raw because it gives you so much detail. Well, if you're using raw, you don't have to worry about white balance because you can change it, completely change it at any time. So if you're shooting in the JPEG, it kind of bakes in the white balance. And you can still change, you can still make changes on it, but not as much or as good as you can if you shoot raw. Like, for example, if you're shooting, have you set it to shoot black and white on the back of your camera so you can see the black and white? If you're shooting in raw, it's going to take all the color information anyway. You know, even though it's displaying black and white, when you download it, you still have all the color information. But if you put it in JPEG, you shoot black and white, it's going to be black and white. It's, you know, changed. So you generally want to, especially landscape, you want to shoot raw. If you underexpose, overexpose, you can bring out more of the detail. You can cut down on, you can, to some extent, you can cut down on the highlights. You can bring out detail in the shadows more. Well, with JPEG, you're going to end up with more noise. So you're better off shooting raw, you know, raw. Use the white, you know, I usually just leave on average white balance. You know, when I first started shooting, I say, all right, I'm shooting sunsets, I'm going to change it to shade or it's cloudy. Or, in raw, it just doesn't matter. You just shoot and you can always change it. Especially in photos in Lightroom, where you can change the sky only in different temperature. So I would shoot raw. It'll be a little, it might be a little bit harder processing, but you get more detail. Shooting modes, the 3 shooting modes that I would use is manual, shutter priority, and aperture priority. Generally, I will use aperture priority because it's quicker than if I was using raw, so I can set aperture. If I'm shooting landscape, I'll probably start around f11, so I might change it depending. But and then if I use an aperture priority, the shutter speed is going to be set automatically. So aperture priority is probably what I use in most of my landscapes. But I will also use manual in landscapes with auto ISO. So auto ISO is a great tool. And a lot of the old time photographers that used film and early, you know, digital days, they want full control. In fact, we were here, you know, a lot of them said that they want full control of their camera. They want to use it manual, completely manual, no auto ISO. But yet they'll go outside, they'll get into their car, and it'll be automatic transmission, and the car is going to make those decisions for you. There's certain things that computers are good at, and I would like to use an auto ISO, and I'll set a low range of the shutter speed. So depending on what I'm shooting, if I'm, you know, I might set it at 1/30th of a second. So anything below 1/30th, I might have it set at ISO 100. Anything under 1/30th of a second at f11 is going to boost up the ISO. Now, a lot of them will say only use ISO 100 or 50, whatever the lowest numbered ISO is. And that was true years ago. But if you want, try it out. Take a picture, shoot it at ISO 100, shoot it at ISO 400, shoot it as ISO 800. See what kind of difference you see. Do you really see a difference? Can you adjust it in software? Especially, I don't know if anybody's using Lightroom, that new, you know, Lightroom. That the noise in Lightroom is just, it's fantastic. So, you know, you can go for a high ISO. Don't stick with, he says, I can't use anything but 100. Now, the reason is you really only have one ISO on your camera, no matter what it says on that dial. When you change that ISO dial, you're changing the output from the sensor. You're not changing the sensor sensitivity. The sensor sensitivity is set. Maybe set at 100, some of the Sonys are set at 50, some of the older Nikons at 200. That's what it is. And then the ISO dial adjusts the output from the sensor. So you're just making it brighter. Now, it's kind of like a TV set. Remember the old days, or transistor radio in the old days? You put a radio on and you kept it low because once you made it loud, it got like staticky and, you know, well, you know, now the new cameras, they're so much better. You can shoot up to 2000 ISO, 2600 ISO. And again, it all depends on what you're doing. If you're gonna be shooting billboards for Times Square, then you probably want to keep that ISO at 100. But they haven't offered me any money for my photos with Times Square yet, so. But, again, and then also, if, even though you're on a tripod, if your ISO is 100 and you're using, say, F11 or F16, and your shutter speed drops to a few seconds, if there's anything moving in the picture, it's going to be blurry. So you don't want to go too low with an ISO. You want to, to me, I want a sharp picture that kind of trumps everything else. If I got a little noise, I can take it out in post. Yes, you can sharpen in post, but it's not as good. But with the ISO, you can sharpen in post. So if I'm shooting motion, motion like waterfalls or then I'm going to go to more either the manual or shutter priority. I want to set a slower shutter speed. Because like if you shoot a waterfall, you want to get that silky effect. So you want to go low, and we'll go over that in a minute too. So, any questions on this so far? Or?
I think your comment about raw, I think you ought to revise it. You should be shooting raw plus JPEG, because all that's changing is what your storage is required. And if you put in 128 megabytes, you can shoot a lot of pictures even in the raw.
Yeah.
And to see anything on the back of the camera is going to automatically make a JPEG.
Yeah.
So the question of when you throw the raw away, you don't have access to it later.
Well, you kind of do in a very small format. I think. In other words, on the sidecar image is a small JPEG, but it's nothing you can really deal with. So what he's saying is, if you want to shoot raw plus JPEG, and that might be a good thing to also see if your processor is, when you put it into Lightroom, compare the two of them, compare the raw and the JPEG. And see if they match up, say, okay, does the JPEG look better or does the process? And then you might even want to make a, you might want to make a preset to make it equal. So my drone shoots RAW and JPEG. So I always, shoot both with the drone. And so I made a preset up for my drone. So the RAW matches the JPEG because it would come up a little bit different. So it adjusted different things on it. But yeah, I mean, like you say, the storage is not a problem anymore like it used to be. The storage is so cheap now, and you can get hard drives. The thing is, do you want to contend with so many files? So you have to make up that decision. Like you got double the amount of files you want to look at, and you're looking at the raw. So it's again, it's personal, preference. Like I said, I do that for my drones both, but again, it's personal preference if that's what you want to do. There's no right or wrong. Like I said, the end line is making the image that you want. It doesn't matter, how you do it as long as you do it, as long as you don't murder anybody doing it. So.
Why do you think about the ISO when you bought a camera, which probably can take a range of, I can't convert it, it stops, but it's at 12 to 14 bits of data. And then it compresses it to 8, making choices that you may not have ever wanted made.
Oh, with JPEG, yeah.
With JPEG.
Yeah.
But to see the damn thing on the back of your camera,
It looks great on the back of the camera.
it's always in JPEG.
Yeah.
And it's simply a question of, do you like what you do to the image more than what you like, what Canon or Nikon did to the damn image?
Yeah. Again, it's your personal preference. But yeah, JPEGs will look better right on a camera.
So that means the camera's smarter than you are. It's as simple as that.
of that.
I'm not going to dispute that. When you think about these cameras, the intelligence that's in them, it has more memory than like the space shuttle did when it first flew off, these things are, they're incredible. There's so much, and these smartphones, they're just amazing. What they do.
But that's a question now, whether you want to make choices, or you're gonna let somebody else make
Yeah.
choices for you.
Well,
You always have that option. It's
Yeah.
simply a question,
Yeah.
you store it.
yeah. Okay. So it's, again, it's what you want it or not, but it's all what you want to do. So if you want to do both, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing both. If you want to do just one, if you want to just shoot JPEG, that's fine too. If you get the images you want to shoot JPEGs, that's fine. If you want to shoot both,
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
okay. Yeah, I'm just saying it's, whatever your personal preference is, there's no, it's just like we were talking before about the judging and the F3C contest. Sometimes the scores are all over the place. It's because it's not an exact science, it's just,
It's not a science at all,
Yeah.
because it's people deciding what they like.
yeah, it's very personal preference.
And the manufacturer, whether it's a cell phone or camera, has made decisions to sell the most to what he perceives the audience to be. And for that, he puts in a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And so if you don't like it,
Tomorrow, the Nikon's introducing the Z8, which is like, to get you to spend more money. Okay. Focus is another thing. So this is photo builds. So what do you focus on? There's tack sharp focus, where you set your focus on, and then there's acceptable focus. So an acceptable focus would be with the hyper focal distance. Basically, we're looking at a distance where, in this case, I used a 24mm lens, set it at 4 feet. So I want from 4 feet, I want the subject's going to be at 4 feet. I want a little before the subject, and I want to infinity as an acceptable focus. Doesn't mean it's going to be tack sharp. You're going to go in and you're going to blow it up, 500%. You might not see tack sharp. In that case, you need to use focus stacking, which is, that's where you take multiple pictures of it, of the shot, and then stack them together in Photoshop. So in this case, and I'll show you, we'll test it out. So at 24mm at 4 feet, f16, I should have everything acceptably sharp from 2 feet to infinity. So this is just kind of this is right from PhotoFills, and you can download hyperfocal charts, off the internet also. But you can see how it changes from 24. This goes up to 35 millimeter focal length, goes from 4 feet to 8 feet 6 inches. At the same f-stop, just by using it different. And if we go on the other range, if we go up to 200 feet, the hyperfocal distance is 274. I mean, 200 millimeters. The hyperfocal distance is 274. So they'll be to infinity. So if you shoot at 200, you're probably zeroing in on something small anyway. So, but let's just see. So we want to try this out. Is this correct? Because I like to try things out. So I set it up. These Mexican violets, I think they are about 4 feet from the camera. I set it on a tripod. Did one at f22. And then one at f4. So you can see, looked a lot better on my computer monitor. But you can see the difference. Like if you go here on f4, you can see the grass starts blurring over here. And the background is really blurred. Well, the background here is sharp. Not tack sharp, but it's sharp. So it's kind of an acceptable focus. And so that's what, by shooting at f16, you get these, tack sharp, but then you have an acceptable sharpness, all the way to the end.
Where's your focal point?
I'm shooting at about 4 feet. So it's over here. So this is going to infinity, which is, that's quite a bit. Again, if you were going to shoot, if you want everything tack sharp, you're going to have to focus stack. So which means you're going to focus here, take a picture, focus here, take a picture, focus here, take a picture, focus there, and then put them all together in Photoshop. But you can get an acceptable sharpness with using a hyperfocal. Now, if you don't have the tables, generally, what a lot of people do is focus about 1/3 in. Don't focus on infinity, focus about 1/3 in, and that would bring the most area in sharp. But again, I tested that out and it works pretty good. If we go into, if I put it on 200 millimeters, now I focused at this point here. You can see that the back, this flower is already out of focus. That's at f/22. At f/6.3, that's really in focus. And a little on the flower over to the right. All the way over, it's on the same plane. So you can see at the, so what affects focus is distance to the subject, the f-stop, and the type of lens. So then there's a formula to find the hyperfocal distance. And one of the elements in that formula is circular confusion. So, because there's a little leeway. So, but again, we go to the table, and I'm big on testing it out and make sure it works. So that worked, the table. Okay, the next one is, I want to talk about time of day. And the first, dawn. Dawn's a nice time to shoot. It's generally quiet, empty, not many people around. In this case, I got early morning fog. This was the, you can see that. This is the blue hour. I actually was going to look at just taking the shapes, but I had enough light within it to see, get a little bit of the valley. You can see the stars are just disappearing. We're getting into the blue hour. So it's just a nice time of day to shoot. This is just over here in Rotunda Park. One morning. So no filters necessary. This is early morning, right before sunrise. I was able to shoot slow and get the blur in the water. Everything else is tack sharp, was on a tripod. And best reasons to shoot this is just this was taken in January in New York after a snowstorm. But generally you have calm winds, still water in the morning, generally. Less haze, cleaner air, good light. And the best reason is breakfast after you shoot. I always do that whenever I go on early morning and I come home, I have a nice breakfast. So I said, these deserve it. And then the downside, you just don't know. You might plan to wake up early and you get out and it's raining, or, it's, so waking up early, shooting in the dark, scouting in the dark. Generally you want to get to an area ahead of time to see where you want to shoot. You don't know if the sunrise is going to be good. Well, in the evening, at least you kind of get an idea what's going on. And the light gets bad fast. Once that sun comes up, especially down here, it just gets bright. You get the harsh shadows, and so that's the downside of going. So midday. So generally midday, you have very harsh light, dark shadows. It's very not as can't make as good images. So it's a good time to do black and white. You got the harsh light will make a good black and white picture. Look for reflections that work nice in the midday. Just be creative. Sometimes weather, you'll have more weather on a good day. you know, sometimes you can't choose when you're gonna shoot. If you're on a cruise, say, and you got a tour at a certain time, you know, that's it. You know, you can't choose. So you gotta make the best of it. So that's why I say, you know, people say, oh, when I wanted to workshop the Yosemite and I went out through the day taking pictures and I felt like guilty because he told me not to take any pictures during the day. But I got some great reflections in water and, you know, so on. But this was midday. I took a few months ago down at Babcock. And it's just kind of, you know, even though it's bright, it was just nice with the green. Then you can look for some contrast. So this is just, and I forgot what they call it from the trees where it grows up like that. So I got a nice contrast in the ground.
Cypress knees.
What's that?
Cypress knees.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it just gave me a nice contrast from the rest of it. So you look for things during the day that you can shoot. You know, that's the only time. This was on. We were on in North Carolina, and storm came in, and we got to see some weather. So, and dusk, it's a great time to shoot. You can scout during the day. Get there early. You have a longer time to shoot because then you go into golden hour, blue hour. You know, light gets better. And then if you screw it up at dawn, you get another chance to take pictures. So this is just as the sun was getting light. You know, you can see the sun's hitting the top of the mountain. You know, Half Dome. This is the Grand Canyon. You can see how the sun's hitting the top over here, and you get into the nice warm light. This is it's from a helicopter from Grand Canyon. So the light just gets better, you know, as you go into the evening. And then you get the night. Again, you know, to kind of know, you know, to know where the moon's going to rise, photo pills comes in handy. This was a 30-second exposure. I know it's a little hard to see, but there's stars. You can see the stars up here. This is what they call a moon bow. It's by the light of the full moon. It only happens a couple of times a year in Yosemite. So I set up the tripod. There was kids running all around and everything, so I had to take a bunch of pictures to get it.
I saw a moon bow at sea.
What's that?
I saw a moon bow at sea.
Did you?
Aircraft carrier, you're always going into the wind when you're launching. We're doing light launch.
Yeah.
Moon behind me. There was an arc of light from horizon to horizon, no color.
Well, yeah. When you look at this with the naked eye, you don't see the color. This is a 30-second exposure, so the color comes out. But looking at it, you didn't see. You just saw. Yeah.
Never seen it before or since.
Yeah.
One time.
You ever see the green flash?
No, I haven't yet.
Twice.
Did you? So, yeah, I've seen it once. And people say it doesn't exist, but it was a beautiful green color.
I photographed it.
What's that?
I photographed it.
Did you? Yeah. It's so quick. You gotta be ready for it. Yeah. And then we're almost finished for today. Panoramic. The thing with panos, you don't want to use. Generally, you don't want to use a wide angle lens because you get a little distortion, you know, at the ends. So you generally want to use, you know, like a 50 millimeter, or, and then stitch them together in you know, whatever software you use. Overlap at least by 20–30%. You know, you can overlap more. It doesn't, you know, doesn't matter. Then you want to mark. Usually what I do, because when I get home, I'm going to forget what I did the panels. I take a picture of my finger, 1, when I start, 2, when I finish. Then I know that's going to be a panel. Now, the other way you can do it in software, if you use auto stacking, like in Lightroom, you can set, you know, stack all the pictures together. They're taking the second apart, 2 seconds apart. I'll stack it for you. But it's just, I find it just easier to do the 1 and do the 2. And you're not losing too much. So this is with a 14 millimeter lens. getting the whole view. And then I ended up, so you can see that at the 14, it's pretty far back the horizon, distance. So I ended up doing a panel on this. I did 14 pictures, 7 across the top.
Wow.
Put them all together and merged them in Lightroom. So you have a real high resolution image. Now, you don't have to use that much. Like if you're shooting a picture and just a little, you don't have your wide angle with you, say. You can just do a couple of like 3 pictures a panel just to get everything in. But again, shoot, usually I shoot like that, and then let it overlap. And you gotta be, it's easy on a tripod. That was on a tripod. But you have to be careful when you do it, because as you turn, as you see, as I turn, it's moving the plane here. So you wanna like try to circle, maybe put your finger down here, circle like that. Maybe but like I say, I'm gonna go like this. It's gonna end up not stitching together well. So if you have to do it that way, then do the 14 like that or something like that. We're taking a lot, go up and down, maybe 3 rows, because you're gonna end up losing along the edges. Now, long exposures. Again, I had to take a long exposures as a waterfall upstate New York. So let's talk about neutral density filters. So these are this is a chart of neutral density filters. And sometimes you go when you buy it and I'll sell you in like a neutral density 8. Well, that's only 3 stops. So that's only going to help you if the light is low to start with. So I have, I think I got a 4, a 16, a 64, and 1,000. And I'll show you how they all work. But you see how like the 1,000 is good for harsh lights. So it's really bright day. You want to get that. But like I say, if you're going to get filters, try to go for the magnetic, because they're so much easier to use. And I'm really having a lot of fun with taking different pictures. I'll show you some, with this. Because like I said, I bought these so long ago, these Hoya filters, and I hardly ever use them. I got to put all the different lenses I got. And they're just too much trouble to use. So, again, if you're going to use it, you're going to use it, tripod is necessary. I would first autofocus. If you're using back button focus, it's okay. But if you're using where you focus when you hit the shutter, you might want to set it on manual focus so you don't have it try to refocus. Again, it's going to be very dull. So it's going to be hard for the camera to focus when you put the, unless it's a mirrorless, it's going to be very hard to focus. So I always take one shot anyway at normal speed. And then I would set it to manual focus, but I use back button focus. So it's only going to focus. Back button focus is, you don't know, I have this button set. It doesn't focus when I hit the shutter button. It only focuses when I hit on the back of the camera. So, it's something, it takes a while to get used to. But once you get used to it, it's good. So then after you do that, you get your ND filter, check exposure. The mirrorless is really good with that. If you can't set an exposure, PhotoPills has an exposure chart that you can use. But with that, it works fine, with the mirrorless. So this one was at 5 seconds and 24 millimeter. And you can see it was a windy morning. The water's just flattened out here, still a little rough here, but flattened out here. Surprisingly, these didn't get blurred. I thought they would probably get blurred, but they're still sharp. So I wanted to see what happens with the different lenses, with the different filters. So I did, if this is in the backyard, I did 1/60th, I did with ND4, I did 1/13. I kept this at ISO 100 F8. It's on a tripod. So you can see, as I went over, like, I kind of like the 1 second one with the 64, and the 1000 was 15 seconds. That really like smoothed it out. Looks like almost like ice or something. But you can see how the trees here are very blurry because it was windy. Because again, it's 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So I just blended in Photoshop, put this one and this one together to, to get it. But I think if I was going to do it again, I would probably want to go with something maybe 2 or 3 seconds range. Again, it's good to test things out to see, where you stand with it. But like I said, I'm really enjoying these filters with the magnetic. So then I wanted to see what happens, with moving water, like if you shoot waterfalls. So what does my camera do with moving water? So I think the hose I just put, into the pool. This is 1.6 seconds, 1/40th. This is more how we see it, 1/40th, 100 with the eye, how it looks. But you can see as I increase the speed, 1/4000th of a second, it's not a steady stream like we see. It's according to that. But you can see how even 1/40th of a second keeps it, But 1.6 seconds would be something like on a waterfall. You might want to use something like that. But again, it opens up a whole new thing for these filters. This is with this is bright daylight with an ND filter. I just wanted to blur the water, so I used an ND filter. It's a Broken Holland Dam up in New York. Because I was playing around one morning by Placida Pier, and I went to 30 seconds, and the water was pretty rough. So you can see it kind of left lines in the water, but it, blurred it a lot. And look at the sky too with 30 seconds. So that's not a great picture by any means, but I think I can do something with that, with nicer sky and get the clouds, especially like if I did a black and white, get the clouds kind of going across. That might be nice. So, something I want to play with in the future. Some long exposures.
Do you have a filter on that?
What's that?
Did you have an ND filter on that, or you just?
Yeah, that's with the 1000. Yeah, that was good to get 30 seconds, and the sun was up already.
That-
What's that?
We were shooting them on bulb for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Oh, so yeah, if you want to go,
And it didn't ruin the sky.
what's that?
It didn't ruin the sky.
It didn't ruin the
It was-
Well, it all depends on how fast the clouds are moving.
And stop.
If the clouds are moving fast, it's gonna blur. One thing I didn't go over, I don't know if I had a list today. I know I was gonna pack it. My screwdriver. Well, anyway, I don't think I packed it. A remote shutter release, just thought of it. I have a remote shutter release that goes into here and then it plugs into the side. So now with the Nikon, when it goes to 1/30th of a second, it's the maximum automatic. Right?
Yeah.
But you can go down to there's a timer bulb. So with timer, you press it once, it's going to open. You press it again, it'll shut.
Stops.
With bulb, you have to hold it down. Now, bulb, I don't recommend unless, well, my timer doesn't, my remote doesn't work with that because then you got to press it down, let go, might introduce some shake. So with the remote, I can, I put it on timer and then I can do a long exposure. But generally, if I'm shooting on a tripod, I will put the shutter on to 2 second delay. And that's enough.
That's what they had us do. They actually they made it longer. It was either a 5 or 10 second delay.
Yeah,
I press the button because you can, and then most of you should can. If you put the remote on it, the timer doesn't come on. If you just press the button.
Yeah.
The back of the camera, you put the timer and you can see how long it's going to shoot.
well, if you have a DSLR, I would definitely go with at least 5 seconds. Just to get the
Yeah,
extra shake.
yeah. That's what I was shooting.
Yeah, because you get the extra shake with that. Just the 2 seconds seems to work. The other thing you can do is put it, and I don't know if the camera will do it, but you put on a delay and take multiple exposures.
Mhm.
So if you put on like a 5 second delay and then take 2 shots,
Mhm.
then a second shot will have less of a chance of shake. So they sharper. All right.
These guys were just adamant, and that's what we were doing.
What's that?
These guys were adamant that we do it that way. When we were in Norway. we were
Oh, in Norway.
through. And this is how they did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the pictures got a red ribbon, so.
This, believe it or not, I handheld this shot. You know, with the third of a second, I leaned against something. But I was able to get the water to blur. Now, polarizing filters. When you talk to landscape photographers, they say use a polarizing filter because it'll make the leaves darker, it'll make the sky better. But I can do that in post without messing around with a filter. But the one thing you can't do in post is take reflections off of water like this. So I just took this the other night, took it one with the polarizer on, one without. You can see the difference in the water. Now, polarizing filter works best when it's 90 degrees to the sun. So if you use your finger, like the sun was over there, and I'm shooting down here. So it's 90 degrees, it's 90 degrees. I got the most maximum polarizing on it. And you can turn the polarizing filter to make it, more or less. So, just going back to ND filters, there's variable ND filters. Now, I had gotten one years ago and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it worked. It gave it just made the images a little, not so nice. So I don't use that. I don't use variable. Basically, variable is 2 polarizing filters put on top of each other. So I didn't like the variable ND. You can always stack, like these you can stack them. The magnetic, you can put 2 together. The only problem is if you're shooting wide angle, you start stacking filters, it's going to cut off a lot of the edges. But you can stack these filters. But this is like I say, this is the reason why I would use a polarizing filter. Darken the sky, I can do that a couple of clicks in Lightroom or Photoshop. So, but I can't duplicate this post. So this is a good reason for polarizing filter. And I think that's going to be it for today. To be continued. So what we want to do next week, in 2 weeks, we want you to try to take some pictures in the meantime. We want to do photo sharing. We want to go over some editing techniques, not specific to a certain program, but this, what you would do in general, because, I don't want it to be like a Lightroom or Photoshop or elements, because you might be using something different, but just what we would do in general to make a picture better. So we'll talk about that in editing. And then I'll, go a little bit over photo pills, some of the other things in photo pills. And then we'll do the photo sharing. Now, we're going to have an outing. Claudia said, and I forgot the day, Claudia said she's going to arrange an outing at the end of the month by the, I think Caperton. So, but we'll let you know when that happens. But so in the meantime, just go out on your own. There's plenty of spots to shoot landscapes here. Whether you want to do seascapes at the beaches or, We have some nice areas by Aka, different parks around. We have meadows here in Rotunda, which is it's nice. But just go out and try some landscape. And then what we like you to do is, if we like to have, submit 3 landscape pictures that you've just taken, and one that you've taken in the past that you like, one of your favorite ones. And we'll do like a best of, and then we'll do so get that together. We'll tell you, we'll send you an email as to where to, to send it to. Paul and I are going to work that out. Any questions on today? So next month we're going to do black and white. Bob's going to, run that. And he has some plans. He'll talk about it more at the next meeting. And
Tony, it's Jerry here. Did you say that the photos we should be looking at next time are 3 new and 3 past?
yeah, 3 new and 1 older one that you like, one of your best stuff.
One. Okay, thank you.
So total of 4. And then in August, we're going to do July. It's hard to believe it's July. Right? So in July, we'll do like an macro workshop. We did it a few years ago where we all got together and took some pictures. So we'll probably need some volunteers to help out with that, talk about that next month. And that's about it. Any other questions? Okay, great. So, like I said, I'm really glad we had a summer program again. That we can do it in person. We got quite a few things working on the fall program. We're going to try to do more speakers next year, outside speakers, and we got 2 for October, 1 so far for November, 1 for December, 1 for January, and we'll work on some new things, to keep it interesting, and keep you challenged. The whole idea is to inspire you, to challenge you, to learn more things and go out and try it. So many times I used to sit here and, that's great, great. And then I go home and I start doing something else and I forget about what we learned. So try to practice. And I'll tell you, going through my pictures and putting this program together, I learned so much just doing it. So I'm anxious to go out and take some more pictures now.
Will you put some of your slides on the website, like the hyperfocal distance? And
Yeah, I was thinking that, if I could, I'll consolidate it down a little so we can get that done the next day or so. I don't want to bore you with everything, but just but yeah, like that, especially aside the neutral density filters. But I'll tell you, that's a game changer for me, is that magnetic neutral density filters. Otherwise, they're just too much trouble. So, all right. Well, we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.